You don't lose someone who loved you. You lose someone you couldn't value. And that's the difference. That's what keeps you awake. Not the breakup itself, but the realization that you had everything and you didn't see it. Before we go deeper, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. This channel exists to help you understand yourself and the game being played around you. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. Let's continue. Here's what nobody tells you about female psychology and regret. It's not immediate. It doesn't happen the day you walk away. It happens weeks later, months later, sometimes years. When she's sitting across from someone new and realizes he doesn't look at her the way you did. When she's laughing, but it feels hollow. When she's being pursued, but it doesn't feel the same. That's when it hits. That's when the weight lands. You weren't just another guy. You were the one who actually loved her and she let you go. Not because you weren't enough, but because she didn't recognize enough when it was standing right in front of her. Let's be honest about something. Most women don't miss the man immediately. They miss him later. When the validation runs dry, when the options stop feeling like opportunities, when the excitement fades and what's left is just emptiness. That's when your name comes up again. That's when she's scrolling at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's when she's wondering what you're doing, who you're with, if you think about her, if you've moved on. And the truth is, you probably have. Because men who truly loved don't sit around waiting for someone to realize their worth. They move differently. They heal differently. They rebuild differently. You gave her the real thing. Loyalty, consistency, presence, effort. The kind of love that doesn't need to prove itself every 5 minutes. The kind that just shows up day after day. No games, no tricks, just truth. But she wasn't ready for that. Maybe she thought love was supposed to feel chaotic. Maybe she confused drama with passion. Maybe she was chasing a feeling instead of building something real. Maybe she listened to her friends who told her she could do better. Maybe she believed the lie that there's always someone else, someone more exciting, more dangerous, more unpredictable. So she let you go and you walked away with your dignity intact. You didn't beg. You didn't chase. You didn't lower yourself. You just accepted it. You gave her the freedom she thought she wanted. And that's the part she didn't expect. She thought you'd fight harder. She thought you'd break. She thought you'd come crawling back. But you didn't, because real men don't chase people who don't want them. They let go. And that silence is deafening. That absence is where the regret begins to grow. Not in your words, not in your actions, but in your absence. She starts to notice the small things. How you used to text her good morning without being asked. How you remembered the little details. How you made her feel safe without trying. How you didn't need her to be perfect. You just needed her to be present. And now that's gone. Now she's dealing with men who don't care the way you did. Men who see her as temporary, as entertainment, as something to conquer and forget. She's getting attention, but not devotion. She's getting desire, but not love. And slowly, painfully, she's realizing the difference. You can't fake real love. You can't replicate it. You can't find it again just because you want it. It shows up once, maybe twice if you're lucky. And if you dismiss it, if you take it for granted, if you let it walk out the door because you were too distracted or too proud or too confused, it doesn't come back. Not in the same form, not with the same man. This is the psychology most people avoid talking about. Women are told they can have it all, that they can explore, that they can wait, that the right man will always be there when they're ready. But that's not how life works. Men move on. Men heal. Men find someone who sees their value without needing a lesson first. And that's when she realizes she had the right man at the wrong time in her life. Or maybe it was the right time and she just wasn't awake enough to see it. Either way, the outcome is the same. She misses you. Not the version of you she created in her head. Not the idea of you, but the actual you. The man who stayed when things got hard. The man who didn't run when she was difficult. The man who loved her even when she didn't love herself. That's the man she can't find again. That's the man she replays in her mind. That's the ghost that follows her into every new relationship because you set a standard and now everything else feels like a downgrade. She'll try to convince herself otherwise. She'll tell herself she made the right choice. She'll list your flaws. She'll justify the breakup. She'll lean on her friends for reassurance. But late at night, when no one's watching, she knows. She knows she lost something real, something rare, something she won't find in a swipe or a DM or a random conversation at a bar. You were the exception. And exceptions don't come twice. Here's what you need to understand. As a man, your love is not something to be bargained with. It's not something you hand out hoping it'll be appreciated someday. You give it to someone who matches your energy, someone who sees you, someone who values what you bring without needing to lose it first. If she didn't see it, then that's on her, not on you. You don't carry that weight. You don't shrink yourself because someone couldn't rise to meet you. You move forward. You become better. You build yourself into the kind of man you respect. And when you do that, something shifts. You stop thinking about her. You stop wondering if she regrets it. You stop checking if she's watching your life from a distance because you're too busy living it. You're too focused on your purpose. You're too locked in on your mission. And that's when the tables turn. That's when she notices you're not the same. You're stronger. You're quieter. You're more certain. You're not chasing anymore. You're choosing. And that shift is terrifying to someone who thought they had control. She thought she could come back whenever she wanted. She thought the door would always be open. She thought you'd be waiting with open arms, like some kind of backup plan. But you're not a backup plan. You're the main event. And once she realizes that, once she sees you thriving without her, that's when the real regret kicks in. Not because you're trying to make her jealous. Not because you're posting for her benefit, but because you genuinely moved on. You let her go mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You released her, and now she's the one holding on. This is the cycle that plays out over and over again in modern dating. Women leave good men thinking they're going to find better. They chase the thrill. They chase the mystery. They chase the guy who doesn't text back. The guy who keeps them guessing. The guy who makes them feel like they have to earn his attention. And for a while it works. It feels exciting. It feels alive. But excitement fades. Mystery runs out, and what's left is emptiness, because that guy was never building anything. He was just passing time. He was never in it for her. He was in it for himself. And once she figures that out, once the illusion breaks, she starts comparing. She starts remembering. She starts realizing what she had. You weren't playing games. You were playing for keeps. And that's rare. That's the kind of man women write about years later. The one who got away. The one they think about when they're alone. The one they wish they could call, but know they can't because too much time has passed. Because you've moved on. Because the window closed. And here's the hard truth. You can't go back. You can't rewind. You can't unlive the choices you made. She chose to walk away. You chose to let her. And both of you have to live with that. But only one of you is sitting in regret. Only one of you is wondering what if. Only one of you is comparing every new person to a ghost. And it's not you because you loved her fully. You gave her the best version of yourself. You showed up when it mattered. And when it ended, you didn't fall apart. You didn't lose yourself. You didn't betray who you were just to keep someone who didn't want to stay. You walked away like a man. And that's something she'll never forget. That's the image burned into her mind. Not you begging, not you broken, but you walking away with your head up. That's the version of you she misses. That's the version she can't replace. Let's talk about what happens in her mind after months pass. She starts seeing your growth. Maybe through mutual friends, maybe through social media, maybe just through the stories that get back to her, and she notices you're different. You're not posting about heartbreak. You're not subweeding. You're not trying to get her attention. You're just living, building your career, hitting the gym, spending time with people who matter, focused on goals that have nothing to do with her. And that stings in a way she didn't anticipate because she expected you to fall apart. She expected you to be stuck. She expected you to need her the way she's starting to need the memory of you. But you don't. You're fine, better than fine, you're thriving. And that realization cuts deep. It forces her to confront something uncomfortable, that maybe you weren't the problem, that maybe she was chasing something that didn't exist, that maybe stability wasn't boring, that maybe loyalty wasn't weakness, that maybe the man who showed up every day was exactly what she needed, but she rejected it. And now it's too late. Because here's another truth about masculine energy that women don't always understand until it's gone. When a man truly loves, he's Alan. He's not halfway. He's not keeping options open. He's committed to building something. And when that man decides to walk away, he doesn't look back with longing. He looks back with acceptance. He accepts that it wasn't meant to be. He accepts that she made her choice. He accepts that his energy is better spent elsewhere, and he moves on with conviction. That's the difference between how men and women often process loss. She might revisit the past constantly, wondering, questioning, romanticizing what could have been. But you're not built that way. You assess, you learn, you adapt, you grow. You don't live in yesterday. You build tomorrow. And that's what makes you dangerous in the best way possible. You become the man who doesn't need her validation. The man who doesn't measure his worth by whether she came back. The man who knows his value independent of her opinion. That's masculine power. That's what she lost. So, what does she do with this regret? Sometimes she reaches out. A random text, a like on an old photo, a comment that seems innocent but carries weight. She's testing the waters, seeing if the door is still open, seeing if you still care. And this is where your response matters. Not to her, but to yourself. Do you entertain it? Do you give her the attention she's seeking? Do you let her back in just because it feels good to be wanted again? Or do you stay grounded? Do you remember why it ended? Do you remember how you felt when she chose someone else? Do you remember the nights you spent rebuilding yourself? Because if you go back, you're telling yourself that your growth didn't matter, that your peace doesn't matter, that you're willing to accept less than you deserve just because it's familiar, and you're better than that. You've become better than that. The version of you that loved her is not the same version that exists now. You've evolved. You've leveled up. You've developed standards that she didn't meet then and probably can't meet now. So, you don't respond with anger. You don't respond with bitterness. You respond with silence. Or if you do respond, it's polite but distant. It's clear that you've moved on, that you're not interested in revisiting what's already been closed, that you wish her well, but you're on a different path now. And that response, that boundary is what cements the regret even deeper. Because now she knows for certain. You're really gone. Not physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. The part of you that was hers no longer exists. It's been reclaimed, redirected, given to your purpose, and eventually given to someone who will value it from the start. This is what women miss most about the man who loved them. Not just the gestures, not just the attention, but the safety, the certainty, the knowledge that no matter what happened, you were there. You were solid. You were dependable. In a world full of chaos, you were stability. In a culture full of games, you are genuine. In an environment full of users, you are a builder. And she traded that for excitement, for mystery, for the unknown. And now she's learning that the unknown isn't always better. Sometimes it's just empty. Sometimes it's just lonely. Sometimes it's just a reminder of what real connection actually felt like with you. She didn't have to wonder. She didn't have to guess. She didn't have to perform. She could just be. And that's a gift most people don't recognize until it's gone. So let her miss you. Let her carry that weight. Let her learn that lesson on her own time. Because your job isn't to teach her. Your job isn't to wait around hoping she figures it out. Your job is to keep becoming the man you're meant to be. The man who loves deeply but doesn't lose himself. The man who commits fully but doesn't compromise his standards. The man who walks away when necessary and doesn't look back with regret. That's who you are now. That's who you're becoming. And the right woman will see that without needing to lose you first. She'll protect it. She'll honor it. She'll match it. And when you find her, you'll understand why everyone before her had to fall away. Because they were preparing you, teaching you, showing you what you don't want so you'd recognize what you do want when it finally shows up. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button right now. More truth is coming your way. Don't miss what's next. I'll see you in the next.